Good morning, Upper Sixth. So, B2B, B2C, C2C, this is at the request of one of you. So we'll go through this. One of the articles is about the importance of recycled clothes and that it will become about 10% of the global fashion market. Thank you for that article, which I've included in the data extracts. We'll go through a bit of both. We'll talk about circular fashion economy again. Recycling is always a bit of a favourite with examiners. I would hope something like this comes up because there's some numerical data in the case studies. I thought I'd use this as an opportunity to do some basic maths and also to look at reverse percentage change because generally those students that aren't that confident with maths struggle with this, and if you're at the school that I teach at, they only really focus on this in a small part of the fourth form curriculum, and even though it's very easy basic maths, if you've never done it since, maybe you've forgotten. So we'll go over it again. So here's the linear economy for fashion. Basically raw materials, design and produce, wear it, either bin it and it goes to landfill, donate it and they put it in landfill if someone doesn't buy it. And the circular fashion economy is hoping that this stuff is going to get reused. Okay, repair, redesign, rent it, resell it, recycle it again, and hopefully it continues. Okay, so we understand that. Those of you that are comfortable with these key terms, I advise that you just crack on when we get to the questions in the case studies. 38 marks, 46 minutes. Those of you that need a little bit more support with these concepts, watch the video, 1.5 times speed obviously, and then do the paper within 38 minutes, mark your own work and see how you get on. EBIs, what went wells, get a study buddy to mark it, have fun. So here are the case studies. Now, yes, they are a lot longer than you would get in the real exam, but remember, reading these is also part of the research theme. So we've got an overview of 4 different government initiatives to do with recycling, and they're the ones that are directly or indirectly linked to the fashion industry. So I've referenced them for you just in case you want to dig a bit deeper. Green Apparel is a made-up company, hence source is Dobby's imagination. But this illustrates a company that is B2C, so they're a retail company, and they also want to benefit from circular fashion. Well, it's very difficult to do everything in a supply chain, and I will refer to B2B as B2B supply chain. This isn't always true, by the way, but if you remember it like this, if I'm the water board, for example, I'm selling water to consumers in their houses. I don't tend to buy that water from someone else, but I will buy pipes. Okay, so I need pipes to get the water to my customers. I don't want to make pipes. There are other companies that specialize in making pipes. I will go to that other business and buy pipes to use in my business. I'm not reselling those pipes, but they are essential for getting water to my customers. Okay, so B2B supply chain is a nice way of remembering it. Not always true, by the way. It might just be business to business stuff. But usually you have to think about what are you doing with the stuff. There's going to be an end consumer somewhere. Okay, at the end of it. So this is the article from LinkedIn. Thank you, Grace, for sending this through. I've not changed it at all. I've happily plagiarised the lot. And there's some lovely figures in here which we will use for our maths questions. Here are the questions which we'll go through. At this point, if you're happy with all the key terms that are there, B2B, B2C, C2C, and you know how to do basic maths, then pause, do the stuff, 1.2 minutes per mark, and then come back and look at the examples and the discussions. Okay? Those of you that want to continue listening, then please do. So here are some of the points. I'm not going to go through all of this because it is literally death by PowerPoint. So I've got key terms, definitions in context, pros, cons, and also thinking about linking that to organisational objectives. At this point, everyone should just pause the screen, maybe look through this. We've got 4 different government initiatives up here, and 5, because we've got circular fashion at the top, I suppose, not really a government initiative. And you've got pros and cons for those, but if these are voluntary, how do we get people to volunteer? If it was mandatory under penalty of laws, then maybe there'd be a different type of argument here. But encouraging, raising awareness, in lots of ways, that is the way that we will be promoting this. We're not going to force people under penalty of fines to recycle their clothes. Some would argue that we should, by the way, because then we'd actually recycle more of it. B2B, B2C, C2C. I've put B2B supply chain in there for the reason I mentioned earlier, even though this is not the only type of B2B. I can't think of any others, by the way. But think about your B2B in your supply chain. Okay, organisational objectives. Every question's coming back to that. We've just done a video on short-termism versus long-termism, and if you think about the different company types that might be seen in these, well, a charity still needs to make profit. If it says not for profit, don't think they don't make a profit. If you don't make a profit, you can't pay the bills. It's charities have to use that profit to either run the company or to benefit the beneficiaries, which could be recycling clothes. It could be discounting recycling clothes from their profits so people could afford them. It could be lots of different things. PLCs have shareholders. Now, if they are focused on short-term return on investments through increased share price and dividends compared to long-term, well, actually, that might influence the way the companies run. When people first bought Amazon shares, they did not buy them to make profit now. They were betting 15, 20 years in the future, and it paid off. Amazon's share price was historically high, even when they were losing millions upon millions, okay? Because people believed in it, and their goals were market growth, market share, and massive economies of scale. In countries like the UK, they've got that, and they're very profitable. In other countries, we've talked about India, for example. When Amazon first went into India, they had a couple of core targets: acquire new customers, repeat purchases, speed and reliability of delivery. That was it. They publicly stated that they would not make profit for at least 5 years. Okay? So don't think everything in the short to medium term is about profitability. It's not normally. However, if I am a limited company with limited funds, private ownership, limited access to public capital markets, for example, I might have the best business ideas ever, but if I can't get it towards profit and I haven't got the money to continue with my business, no matter how good my ideas are, I need money to run the company. Okay, so we need to think about profit motives in context with other business objectives. Don't just be lazy TikTok business student and end in sales and profits. Okay, screenshot that, stick it in your notes, or update it, or ignore it. It's up to you. So using the data in Extract C, I've just put C here for you, calculate the forecasted market size of the global fashion industry for 2024 in both of these currencies. Reading through the case study, you will see we've got 10% of global fashion market, and we can see that they estimate those two figures. Okay, this is a bit of easy maths. If you ever get a question this easy, I'll be amazed, but it's nice to get you in the mood. Okay, so this is going to be 10% of the market. So this is 10% of the market. This is 10% of the market. So we need to find out 100% of the market. Stick a 0 on the end of it. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this because that was a bit generous, really. It is early. So really easy maths. You're not going to be writing this or this. You're probably going to be writing the figures directly into a calculation. There's no excuse not to show your workings. And remember, if you mess it up by accidentally mixing up your zeros, for example, I would recommend you use billions and trillions because it's easier to actually write down, less chance of you messing up a zero. If you show your workings and you've got 1 0 wrong, you're probably going to get 3 marks. If you don't show your workings and you get 1 0 wrong, you're going to get 0 marks because your answer is just wrong. Okay, so listen to your teachers, show your workings, and don't be that lazy student that can't be bothered to show their workings. Now, this is more like an exam question that you're going to see in possibly paper 1 or paper 2. So calculate the forecasted growth in market size, paper 1, between 2023 and 2028 for second-hand clothing. Okay, so what we have to do is, first of all, we need to find out the market size, in US dollars of 2023. Well, we've got, so this is forecasted growth of second-hand clothing. So second-hand clothing, so that is the 2024 forecasted figures. Okay, so we know what we have. We know this is a reverse percentage change, and we know that that figure is not 100%, it's actually 118%, because what we're looking for is we're looking for the figure from 2013, 23, not the one from 2024. Okay, so this is worth to 118%. So we need to divide that by 118, times it by 100 to get that. Easy maths. Then we need to look for the case study, because they always make you work for one set of information and they give you something else. And we've got the 2028 figures given down here, so we can calculate the answer. Easy. We've highlighted the evidence first of all. We know how to work these out. So we know that's worth 118% of 2023. So basically, we're going to work out some basic maths. There you go, showing my workings. And we know that 2028 is worth $350 billion, probably, maybe. Take one away from the other, and we've got 4 marks. Okay, so they make you work for one set of information, they give you another to enable you to calculate the third. That's where your 4 marks come from. Okay, easy peasy. Practice your reverse percentage change, and remember 2024 was the equivalent of 118% of 2023. Easy, easy peasy maths. So, on to the essays. So, first of all, likely importance. Clearly, this is going to be the start of our hook of their business-to-business supply chain. Put it in the question for you. On its organisational objectives. So it's the importance of this on its organisational objectives. So I need to identify the organisational objectives. That's easy. And it's B2B. And we also need to think, well, it's likely that it is important or it isn't important, or there's other things that might be important. Well, if we're thinking about other things that might be important, I'm thinking of B2C. I've read the case study. I can see that customers come into their retail shop, and if they didn't have any customers, they'd be a bit stuffed, really. So no matter how good their B2B supply chain is, it doesn't mean they're going to actually have a profitable business without customers. So I need to make sure that I'm not just running on about B2C just because I've remembered it, and I'm looking for factors that are important about the B2B supply chain, possibly some counter arguments about the B2B as well. It might be B2C. We'll see. I'm going to start off with a contextualized definition just to make sure that I'm answering the question. Okay, I'm not just going to say it's business to business, because that's in the case, that's in the question. Companies that Evergreen trades with to recycle and distribute its clothes. I've probably got 3 marks already. You know, it shows an understanding of business to business, and it's in context. Okay, bit of a chain of argument in some ways, but Evergreen's engagement in sustainable practices context through its B2B supply chain, everything in bold is a chain of argument, and there might be more I've missed, enhances its brand image as a leader in sustainability, which attracts a broader customer base interested in eco-friendly products, not just products. This initiative, quotation marks around evidence, I've put ... there, so I can't be bothered to write the entire sentence out, there's no point. This initiative supports a circular economy in the fashion sector, highlights, this is an interpretation of the evidence and also creates another chain of argument, the direct link between the importance of evergreen sustainability efforts with its supply chain. Sustainability efforts are one of its organisational objectives. Okay? However, the importance of maintaining strong relationships with its B2C customers is also important. Also, possibly more, is fine, because these customers directly influence the company's brand image and sustainability achievements. That's their organisational objectives, by the way. Their success is directly linked to continuous consumer participation, as in recycling their stuff, which is shown, interpretation of case study evidence, by that over half of shoppers were found to have purchased something second-hand last year, indicating, there you go, that's the interpretation. This was signposting you to the evidence, the critical role of B2C engagement. Okay, this is important, so is this. Overall, let's answer the question. Go back to the hook, likely importance. Overall, Evergreen's B2B supply chain is, using the word from the question, important in terms of brand image and environmental impact. It's answered the question. It's not rocking my world because we know what we need to hopefully get those last couple of marks. We need a very good justification. And in this case, like the importance of B2B, however, let's consider the alternative, which is not having the supply chain. Without the B2B supply chain, Evergreen could not participate in the circular economy through its recycling and trade-in initiatives. Not only does the supply chain bring benefits, but it is essential for Evergreen to achieve its aims. Okay, so we're considering the alternative. Yes, it's important. Now we've fully justified it. And actually we've said it's essential because they're not going to be able to do all of this themselves, we presume. Is that an assertion? I don't think so. Anyway, is it level 4? Is it perfect? Well, probably not perfect, but I think it's level 4. You can decide where it is. But you'll notice over here we've got the two different types of 10 markers. This wasn't a mean 10 marker with benefits or disadvantages. It was assess the likely impact, importance, likelihood, those sorts of things. We can write a slightly shorter version. You'll notice that some of these paragraphs have got more than 3 chains of argument. It's just the way that they got written very quickly over breakfast this morning. So there you go. Hopefully that's okay. Moving on. Here's our 20 marker. Now, through initiatives like Textiles 2030 Agreement, you've read the case study, you should know what that is. The government aims to promote reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. The government is considering investing more money into supporting retailers, contextualised, or investing money to support firms like Vinted. Evaluate the importance of B2C, business to consumer, and C2C, consumer to consumer models in supporting the growth of recycled fashion, and recommend which one is more likely to help the government achieve its aims. So the aims are to promote reuse up here. We have got more likely. So option 1 is B2C, option 2 is C2C. Let's quickly change glasses. So, and we're thinking about supporting growth. Okay, so it's which one can support growth and achieve its aims. Okay, so our hook is quite not complicated, but so what we've got there, it's probably because I've written the question instead of a chief examiner who knows what they're doing. So our hook is up here, but it's also the growth and we've got this more likely. Okay, so it's not we will do this one, the other one's a load of rubbish. Okay, which one's more likely? Now, I think this is also more likely short to medium term versus long term. And I'm thinking my MOPs might be considering what might change in the future to possibly consider those longer term impacts. So I've put in red what I think demonstrates an understanding of the theory. You've got to make sure you're defining option 1 and option 2. Now, you can do this in the start of your first P paragraph, but you've got to demonstrate an understanding of this. And sometimes you also have a hook that is profits or employee satisfaction or employer-employee relations. You're going to need to demonstrate an understanding of the hook as well sometimes. In this one, it's obviously to do with promoting, reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. So the B2C model, where businesses sell to customers and help them access circular fashion providers, is important to the promotion of reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. So straight into the hook. Retailers can use their brand and marketing strategies to promote recycled fashion as a desired choice, which can drive consumer behaviour. Remember those marketing principles that we talk about: awareness raising, interest and action, towards a more sustainable option. With this direct interaction with eco-friendly customers, contextualized consumers, retailers can educate and influence purchasing decisions, ultimately leading to a more significant impact on reducing textile waste. Back to the hook. Evergreen Apparel's initiative to offer vouchers application in exchange for unwanted clothes is an example of a B2C model supporting a circular economy, a key aim of the government. So at the end of the chain of argument, we've made it absolutely clear that it's directly linked to the hook in the question. This creates another chain of argument. We've got obvious contextualization there of B2C in action. And we're not just talking about consumers, we're talking about eco-friendly consumers. Okay, so there's easily 5 chains of argument there, which is what we're really looking for that level 4, moving towards top level 4 experience. We're now looking for a counter argument, and we always love the word however to tell the examiner that the counter argument's there. However, the success of B2C models depend on the individual strategies of retailers, which may vary in their commitment to sustainability, as some might be more interested in profits. This goes back to that initial table that I mentioned about PLCs, limited companies, charities, and I'm thinking most retailers, definitely not all of them, but the big retailers, H&M, Primark, Next, all the ones we've researched are PLCs. Additionally, the upfront cost for retailers to establish and maintain recycling programs can be substantial, potentially affecting the financial viability of these initiatives, which might mean, a nice interpretive chain of an argument, less getting involved, impacting the government's aims. The government's waste prevention programme suggests that financial support for retailers may be necessary, indicating that the B2C model could be resource intensive. Okay, so that is using some of the case study information, and it suggests that there might be some funding available. Well, they wouldn't give you the funding for a laugh, would they? If people were going to make a small fortune out of this, if this was going to be a game changer, then why would the government give you money to encourage you to make even more profit? Yeah, it's not like we're Thames Water. Keep up to date with your current affairs. The C2C model empowers consumers to take direct action, selling clothes to each other in the recycling process. Selling clothes to each other, consumers, demonstrates an understanding of the key term C2C, creating a more engaged community around sustainable fashion. C2C platforms like Vinted application or online marketplace facilitate peer-to-peer exchanges that can rapidly scale up availability and desirability of second-hand clothing, reaching a range of consumer groups across the UK. Okay, this is quite important if we're talking about some of those case studies we look at are one shop. I think it was in a seaside resort we did another video on. Well, they might have aspirations to change the world, but they're one shop, plus they've got some social media. Okay, if Primark did this properly, then would they have more of an impact? Probably. Supporting the government's objectives to promote reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. Back to the hook, obviously. Now for an interpretation of some evidence. According to Global Data Report, the second-hand market is robust in the US, with platforms like Vinted and Depop outpacing overall retail growth by sevenfold, a trend that could be mirrored in the UK. So this could be the way to go forward. We copy the US on most other things. Maybe this will be for us. However, the success of C2C depends on consumer participation and the effectiveness of these third-party platforms. There is also less control over product quality, which may deter some consumers who may worry about the quality of the clothes they buy. Just because I'm buying it off of someone doesn't mean it's any good, does it? I can take it back to a shop if it's faulty. While C2C can promote the circularity of fashion, it doesn't necessarily ensure the clothes are recycled or upcycled, potentially just delaying their journey to landfill. That graphic that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, meaning it might not be as effective as a B2C program. Slight comparison of arguments. The reliance on C2C platforms operating at a loss, as indicated by Depop continue to operate at a loss, could question the long-term sustainability of this model. Okay, so not only are we using evidence, we're interpreting it, and we're thinking about, well, there might be inconsistencies here. We don't know if this stuff is going to be upcycled. And also, let's face it, these models at the moment aren't making any money. So is this viable short to medium term to help the government achieve its targets? Overall, before we write our conclusion, we will always go back and double check the hooks. So we want which one is more likely to help grow recycling in fashion and promote reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. Okay, so more likely is the hook. I've underlined it for you. I recommend that the government, this is quite important because we've got recommendation up there. I recommend that the government should invest in B2C initiatives. B2C may have more immediate and controlled impact on the growth of recycled fashion. I'm not going to repeat the argument, we've already put it into a point. Therefore, this option is more likely to support the government's aim of promoting reusing and reselling unwanted clothes. Okay, so we've already had this argument, so we're really looking for a justification that either badmouths C2C or supports this argument even more. While C2C model is valuable and should not be overlooked, its reliance on consumer engagement and the financial viability of platforms makes it less predictable. Okay, so we've already talked about up here sustainability of model. We also don't know what they're doing with the clothes because we can't actually legislate and monitor it or link it into the funding, for example. And we're talking about more likely, and here less predictable. Okay, this basically says C2C in principle is pretty good, but we might have more of a chance of predicting the impact if we support B2C. It's a good justification. Let's think about a future orientated MOPS. Over half of shoppers were found to have purchased something second-hand in the last year, indicating a shift in consumer behaviour towards recycled fashion. Question the reliability of the data. If this trend continues to grow, a balance between B2C and C2C could become necessary to adapt to changing market dynamics and consumer preferences. Okay, now, so this MOPS looks at the future, it's using a little bit of data, and it says keep an eye on it, and maybe we need to focus a bit more on C2C in the future. Not sure if it's a brilliant MOPS, did it in a rush over breakfast, and hopefully that's of some use. 5 chains of argument, you can count them. We've used the hook, we've used context throughout. Every single paragraph has some sort of context. Even the justification talks about financial viability and actually questions the reliability of a business model. So everything's contextualized. It's so easy to write if you contextualize. Make sure you define at the beginning of option 1 and option 2, however you decide to do that. Really quite important that you demonstrate an understanding of the key term, because if you accidentally waffle through the entire answer, it's not going to end well. Again, is it a perfect answer? Could we improve it? Of course we could improve it. But if we were writing this and planning this in 24 minutes, okay, I would have got some of this information from the previous questions. Remember, if this was paper 1, it would be 4, 4, 10, 12, 20. Hopefully it's all building up towards the 20 marker, the last case study adding a little bit more. But realistically, you should all be able to write this in 20 minutes, and you've got 4 minutes to pull the information out and do a bit of planning. Plan your question. This is very easy. Option 1, option 2, look at the hooks. I know what I need to define because that's option 1 and option 2. And also look at the hooks to see if I need to demonstrate an understanding of profit and all those other ones that I mentioned. Hopefully that was useful. And remember, if you haven't taken a screenshot of the definitions, pros, cons in context with business objectives, rewind the video and take a screenshot and add it to your notes. Hopefully that was useful. Keep the topics coming in, and I'll see if I can find an article to support some revision for you. Enjoy the weather. It's meant to be a heat wave today, and that's why I've done you an early video today instead of one a little bit later in the morning. See you later.